Today I came across a scripture that I found interesting and which inspired this video, and I want to talk about it. By the way, today is Sunday. Happy Sunday to you all. If you're seeing me on YouTube for the first time, you're very welcome. I just got back from church a while ago, and the gospel for today was taken from Matthew 5:17 to 37. It's quite a lengthy reading, but one part of it stood out for me, and that is where Jesus talks about divorce, and he says that if you divorce a woman, you make her an adulteress. Any man that divorces his wife makes her an adulteress, and anyone that marries a divorced woman commits adultery with her. And for a moment, I said, yo, Jesus, this is hard teaching, and personally, I consider this one of the hardest teachings of Jesus in the Bible. And a lot of people might not really understand and may not really give context to it, may not really understand what Jesus really means. And that's why I thought to myself, why not come here, do a video to say what you think that Jesus really means in that teaching. First of all, this teaching was derived from the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus was addressing the people. And before he went on, talking to the people, he said something really powerful. He said, I am not here to abolish the law, but to fulfill it, right? Now, because he knew the people he was talking to, the Jewish people were more keen on keeping to the law, like they would go all out, keep to the law to the very last letter, as opposed to really fulfilling it. And so the Jewish people had this character. At the time, Jesus saw that divorce was really rampant. Divorce was really commonized. It was a thing of convenience. At will, they could just stand up and divorce their wife for something as little as maybe burning food or even breaking plates. Okay, so the truth is, a lot of men were trivializing divorce. They marry as many women and decide to let anyone go at will. Women were discarded at will as though they were properties, and Jesus did not see that this was okay. It was not okay. And this teaching was even protecting of the women, right? And I'll tell you how. It sounds like it's condemning women. Now, if you look at it literally from the surface, it might come out looking like Jesus was attacking or Jesus was not being fair to the divorced women, regardless of probably why they were divorced in the first place. Either was it a trivial issue, was it not a trivial issue? And I believe that someone might be asking, was Jesus condemning, divorced women? Was he ignoring abuse, violence, and things like that? Or was it just coming outrightly to say, you know what, there is no mercy or grace for anyone who is divorced, regardless of why and how they were divorced? He was even defensive of the women and addressing the hardness of the hearts of the men when he said that. And there's this phrase that stood out. Now, this phrase is, unless on the ground of unchastity. That word is derived from the Greek word porneia, which means sexual immorality or sexual unfaithfulness. Now, Jesus was saying that the only legal ground for divorce is if your wife or if the woman is engaging in sexual immorality. The truth is, Jesus was understood and was teaching the essence of marriage, that marriage is meant to be built on the covenant of love. Remember, he says two become one, right? Because they knew that the women were handicapped. Women at the time were not financially, capable. They were not financially protected. They didn't have the financial dependence. So the next thing by default after a divorce is to remarry so that another man will continue to care and to cater for their needs, right? Jesus also spoke to the injustice. He exposed the injustice that they were doing at the time and made them realize that, what you're doing is at the detriment of this women. And so he made it realize that anyone who marries her, again, is committing adultery with her. And you too, who is divorcing her, you are making her an adulteress. And so he made them realize that you are being unkind and unfair and unjust to her by letting her go at will, except it has to do with, the case of infidelity. Now, trying to narrow it down to our today's life, the things we are exposed to in our today's marriages. A lot of people might say, a lot of people are facing divorce, not particularly because there is any immorality or sexual betrayal or infidelity, as the case may be. I understand that so many people are going through divorce based on, let's say, abuse, based on injustice, based on abandonment, based on dysfunction, based on a lot of things, violence, as the case may be, and many other vices, right? In this teaching as well, Jesus is not so much about condemnation. And that takes us just a little bit, let me digress a little bit, to the story of the woman who was caught in the act of adultery. Now, when she was brought to Jesus, and there were said, of course, according to the tradition, any woman who is caught in adultery was going to be stoned to death. And just asked them all to stone her if they were not without sin, and no one was. And he said something really powerful. He said, if no one condemned you, I also would not condemn you. Go and sin no more. So Jesus was not so much about condemnation, but he was a lot more about they understanding the covenants, the seriousness of the covenant of love, the seriousness of the covenant of marriage. So marriage is a big deal. It's not something you go into, you rush into because you have it at the back of your mind that you want to come out of it. It's not a contract of convenience. It's not something you do and then because tomorrow I'm no longer in love or I've fallen out of love with this person, I'm going to walk out of the marriage without any serious, backing, without any serious issue. Say the partner becomes less of what you expect. You're not getting the results as you thought you would. Say you thought this person was rich and he didn't come out being as rich as you thought, and you walk away. Jesus was teaching that marriage is sacred. Marriage is built on covenants, and marriage should be taken a lot more seriously. Realistically speaking, I believe there are a lot of marriages that are going through a hard time. They are going through, threatening situations. A lot of marriages that are threats to lives, threats to health, threats to sanity, threats to peace. Generally, not necessarily because any partner has, committed infidelity, but majorly because of lack of compatibility. And along the line, there are some serious issues like abuse and violence that has crept into that marriage and has, tried to break each of the partners. The truth is, Jesus' teaching is not here to condemn. It's not here to say that, you are doomed if you are divorced. And this brings me to saying that people need to be a lot more careful on how they use this particular scripture to weaponize those who are already wounded and those who are going through a hard time in their marital relationships, because the truth is there are unique and peculiar situations that revolves around each person that does not necessarily have to do with infidelity. In such a case, if you're experiencing a threatening situation in your marriage, seek help early. If you're still in the marriage, then as much as you can, protect and guard the covenant of love that you share in that marriage, understanding that marriage is not always sustained by romance. No, marriage is built on strong covenant of love. It's beyond how you feel part time. Sometimes you may not feel in love. Sometimes you may not feel like the other person is also in love. But when you understand the sacredness of the covenant of marriage, and you understand that Christ himself is the one who instituted marriage and is interested in the institution of marriage, then you will guard that institution, with all diligence and with all seriousness, which is one of the key teachings. The heart of Jesus' teaching is understanding the seriousness in the covenant of marriage. But like I said also, if your marriage is threatening, if you're experiencing, a threatening situation in your marriage, then please seek help in the right places and with the right people. And if you're still in your marriage and experiencing peace and, you're still experiencing love, then as much as possible, guard the love, the covenant that you have, guard the love that you share, that the devil does not have a way to creep in. Take the covenant seriously and understand that, it's more of a divine calling to be in the marriage. And for those who are already divorced, you can find healing. It's not a sermon of condemnation. It's not a teaching of condemnation. No, way beyond that. No one should, deceive you into feeling like you're condemned. No. Jesus' teaching is not one of condemnation. It's one that gives hope and gives grace. Remember the story of the woman, right? Who was caught in adultery. She had grace, she had help, she had hope again. And so there is grace for healing. You can heal, you can live a more beautiful life again, even as a divorced person. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. What do you think? What do you think Jesus was really saying in this scripture of today, in this, gospel that I've shared with you today? This is my side to it. Let me know your thoughts. Share your thoughts in the comment section. I would love to read from you. Remember to like this video, give it a like, share it with anyone who you think might benefit too from it, and subscribe to the channel. Yes, it's free. Subscription is very free. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in my very next video. Bye for now.